Hello there. My name is Greg Sherman, and I am the instructor for this course, EDEF 605, Educational Research. And I want to welcome you to the web space that will be the most important place that you go to get information about the class, to facilitate the process of learning the important skills that the class is designed to teach, and also an important place for me to be able to communicate with you in sort of a broad sense, to broadcast out to you. So I wanted to prepare this brief introductory video for two reasons. One is just to tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit about why educational research is a very important class to take as a graduate student. And perhaps most importantly, though, to provide you with a tour of the course website so that you can better and more quickly understand where things are on the site and where you would go to access the important information that is needed on a weekly basis. So let me talk a little bit about myself. I have been an education professor at Radford University for almost 15 years now. I have about 25 years of experience working in higher education, and before that, I taught for 10 years as a junior high school biology teacher. And I will tell you that a lot of the examples that I use in all my courses have to do with science and scientific thinking. And that's because it's my favorite area of academics to have ever studied, but also I had many sort of professional teacher changing moments as a science teacher, and those are some of the things that I like to share, particularly with teachers who are sort of just starting out. Now, I know that many of you are just starting out in your teaching careers, not all of you, but many of you. And I also know that this course is one of the first graduate courses that many of you will be taking. And that's, as I mentioned, that's a really good thing, because graduate programs in general are definitely designed to help you think in certain ways, in this case, about education and about teaching. And so I think this is a really important class. And I'll give you an example of how important this can be as a teacher from my own experiences as a science teacher. I've got my degrees, my graduate degrees in the area of educational media, computers, and instructional technology. So I got graduate degrees in those areas. But like most education graduate students, I began my graduate experience taking some research courses. And in one of my early research courses, I needed to design a study and actually design it and conduct it, collect the data, analyze it, and report on it. And because I was teaching science at the time, I had a lot of questions that had to do with the best ways for teaching science and the most effective ways for students to learn important skills in the science area. So as one of my research projects that I designed and completed in my graduate course, it all started one day on a Friday afternoon when I was showing a film to my 8th grade life science classes. And it was one of my favorite films to show because it was, well, first of all, it was a lengthy film. That's always good on a Friday. But also because it was a educational film about a girl who was about the same age as the students that I was teaching. And the film depicted her on her way home from school, walking by through some fields and walking by a giant conservatory, which in this context means a place like a greenhouse. And I know that probably wasn't a typical way home for most kids, but it worked in the film. You'll have to trust me on that. So as she went and visited the greenhouse after school every day, she noticed that some of the plants that were the same types of plants were growing better than others. And she started to think about why was that? What was different about some of the plants and about their environment? And as she looked around, she decided that perhaps the different quality of light had the most influence on which plants grew better than others. And so she had that question, and she decided to test whether or not different colors of light had an influence, because she noticed that some of the shadows, the light color seemed to be a little bit different. So she proceeded in the film to carry out a controlled experiment. And the purpose of the film was to help the learners understand what it means to design a controlled experiment, to control variables and to test only one variable and keep all of the others constant. And so it was a really important film in science. But one of the things that puzzled me as I was watching the film is that the narrator was an adult female, and she talked about the girl in the movie. The only character in the movie was the girl, and her name was Sarah. And she talked about her in the third person. And as I was watching the movie, I wondered whether or not the students would be more engaged if the narrator was the student and not a professional adult narrator talking about her, or whether the narrator was Sarah, is what I'm getting at. So particularly since my students were about Sarah's age. And so when I was asked in my graduate class to come up with a research question, my immediate thought was, I wonder if the type of narrator would have an impact on learning from an educational film. And so I designed and carried out a controlled experiment with my class, and for the next for subsequent semesters. It was kind of a long project. So I created different treatments, different versions of the film where I had a young girl who spoke in first person as if she were Sarah. She spoke in third person as if she was narrating about Sarah. And then I reshot the adult narrator as with the same scripts, speaking in third person, not speaking in first person, but it was that kind of an experiment, and I implemented it. And I got some modest differences when I analyzed the data, not so much in learning, but more in attitudes about the film. And I was fascinated by that in a number of ways. One was because I was really growing as somebody who was trying to figure out the best way for students to learn things. But also what fascinated me are all the questions that came up as a result of that experience. I realized that with making modest changes in the media didn't have that big of an impact on learning. But what I did realize is that the character in the film, although it was just a character, she appeared in the film to have learned a lot about controlled experiments, and my students certainly learned a lot about controlled experiments by being asked to do them, and I was learning a lot about controlled experiments because I was doing one with investigating that media and those differences in media. So one of the profound sort of realizations I had in that experience was to recognize that when learners are engaged in something meaningful and purposeful, then that is the big difference. That's a big change in whether or not they're going to learn what you as a teacher or as a designer want them to learn. And one thing I realized in studying education more is that there are not a lot of fundamental variables that can be manipulated in a way that have a profound impact on learning, all things being equal. But there are some, immediate feedback is a variable, or the type of feedback is a variable that has a profound impact on how learners learn, whether it's immediate, delayed. The amount and type of practice has a profound impact on learning. Having spaced practice is a variable that really has an impact on learning. And also presenting information in a way to learners where you reduce the cognitive load on the stimuli being presented. Keeping things simple, keeping things organized, presenting information in an organized fashion, cueing learners to what's important to be learned, and why, the motivating factors. Those are all variables that have a profound impact on whether learners learn effectively from an environment. And one cool thing about that is that probably everybody walking around understands that deep down. They know that, because everybody who's managed to make it to adulthood could be classified as an expert learner. Well, most. I've met some who I question, but anyway, so the process of thinking about my practice from a research perspective changed the decision making that I had as a teacher for my entire career. And so anyway, that's a little bit about me and a little bit about why this is an important course, maybe a little longer than you would have wanted. But let's take a look now at the website itself so that you can be oriented to the material that's presented. Okay, so here I am on the homepage, and the homepage includes the current announcements for the week. And I'll almost always have a button at the bottom of the announcements section that will take you to the weekly assignments. However, there is an assignments menu, and as we go through each week, another link will be added here. But as you introduce yourself to the course, one of the best places to get started is by going to the course info menu option at the top, and you can select the course info here, and here, read through this carefully. This talks a little bit about the course and about the grading policy and about the projects. Most of this information is the same as what was communicated to you in the course syllabus that was emailed to you. There's the goals and objectives listed, which are also communicated to you in the course syllabus. This is very important because it provides a roadmap of what is going to be measured on each of the exams. That's good stuff. The calendar of events is listed here and due dates, and this calendar may change as we go throughout the semester. And if it does, I will reference the changes in the calendar, and you can see that it was updated on the 28th of August. I have a really good page here about what's expected of you as a graduate student in the areas of reading and writing, and how that is contrasted with what your expectations were likely as an undergraduate student. So that's just important information. And then I have some information about myself. If you're interested in learning more about me, I have some information on the About Me page, including a copy of my current vita, if you want to know more about my academic background, my education, and some of the experiences I've had in life, and some of the research and consulting that I have done in my career. So that's all under course info, always accessible. As I mentioned, on the assignments, all the assignments for each week will be posted under this menu item. There are 3 projects in the class, and right now I have information posted about the first project, project number 1, and there's a lengthy introduction along with what you need to do for the project, the grading criteria. There is an evaluation template that I'll use to evaluate it, so all of that information is included here. We do have a course blog, and I'm asking you to respond to it as you read through the material and in the first week. And so far there are no comments, but that's okay. So in the next few days, I hope that you can respond to the first question that I ask there. And going back, so that's the course blog. If you click on the D2L link, this will take you to the login screen. Oh, heavens. Well, I need to fix that, don't I? All right. Well, I will fix the D2L login. Apparently, they changed how you're going to be logging in. You'll go to the the my.radford.edu site, and then that will take you to the D2L space. And I'll have a space here. I don't have it up yet, but I will have a space here that includes a place for you to do 2 things. One is a place for you to submit your projects. There's a file box there, and that will allow me to organize them and grade them and get that feedback to you as quickly as possible. And then also it's a place for you to check your grades. Oh, and there's a third reason why D2L is important, and that is also where you will be taking your exams online. Just a note on the exams, all the exams will be delivered online. You'll have a window of time in which you need to complete them. it will be a timed exam, but it will be open notes if you need it. So there won't be a lot of memorizing you need to do, except you will need to be so familiar with the notes that you can perform the skills and the outcomes in a way that can be done within a reasonable amount of time as a graduate student. So that is that. And finally, under the resources, this is where I will post things, and this list will grow. I will post things that are important for the course. And right now I have a page about operationalizing, because this is something that's part of the first project. I've got a list of all the APA resources that will be helpful. That's the formatting and style guidelines that you need to follow as a graduate student. And also I have a page right now for practice exams, and I have one for the first practice exam, but I have one for all 4 of the exams. And my advice to you, honestly, is not to take these practice exams until you have had a chance to study hard, because otherwise the practice will not be as effective for you. And I will say that the practice items are, although the course exams, there will be more items, the practice exam does provide a very, very good indication of both the types of questions asked, exactly what skills are going to be measured on the exam, and also the nature of how those the questions are going to be implemented. Most of them are multiple choice, because this is a machine scored exam, though there are some open-ended questions. And so it's machine scored up to a point. And you'll know that by taking the practice exam. You'll know which items you'll need to respond to with more constructed response, more lengthy items. Okay, so that is it for the overview of the course. I hope you enjoy the course. I hope you get a lot out of it. Right now, I only have material posted to the course website for the first week, but that will change very soon as we go from week to week. And there will come a point, perhaps in 3 weeks or so, when there will be information and assignments and practice items that will extend into the future, so that you'll be able, if you wanted to get ahead, then you can certainly do that. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the course. Hope you were able to get the course textbook. As you know, I did email you the first chapter in case you need that to help you get started with week 1. And when week 2 starts, I will also post the chapter for that in case some of you still haven't had a chance to receive your text. But that will be it. I will have the first 2 assigned chapters posted, and then I'm limited by the copyright and fair use law as far as distributing anything after that. So, okay. I look forward to working with you online this semester. And if you need anything from me, any support, you can contact me. All my contact information is on the course syllabus and in the course information website. So I will see you online.